So we're back on this job. Some of you may remember this. We stripped some Artex off the ceiling. We lined the ceiling with some insulating lining paper. Then we lined on top of that and then we finished it off with this wallpaper. We're back to fix some damage downstairs on the ceiling. The electrician's been and he's fitted the lights. So we'll just have a look at this light up here. Yeah, so it's not bad, that light. It's an integrated bulb in it. You can't change the bulb, you have to change the whole light. But it has got 3 settings and it's really good light. It's an LED. That's the first one. And then you turn it off and then back on, and it just lowers the power. Really good for a staircase, especially if you've got kids and you want to leave a light on at night. Right, let's go and look at the damage downstairs. This is the ceiling downstairs. You can just see the damage there next to the light. The wire wasn't coming out in the right place, so he's had to move it. So I'll show you how to fix that. What I'm going to do is turn the electric off, remove the light fitting, and I'm going to cut a square out of the paper, remove that, fix the wire possibly over the slats so it's coming down into the centre where it should be, and then fill the hole on the side, cut a square of paper out and put the paper on, and it should be okay. It's going to obviously need emulsion on that. So I'll show you the steps. They're the steps. Well, they're the steps I'm going to use. You need a decent platform, you know, to work on, especially doing something like that. Electric's off. First of all, I'm going to take the bulb out. Now, when you're removing anything like this, you've got to be really careful. Screwdriver. A lot of wire wrapped up inside there. A lot of wire. That's not too bad at all. But what I'm going to do now is just disconnect the wires. There's only 3 wires to this. Make sure you know which one's the earth and where they're going back. Alright. What I'm going to do is just put a little mark in the plaster on the wood. In fact, it's on the wood, this, where I want the wire coming through. Alright, remove this bracket. do is put these screws back in. It just makes it a lot easier. I'm just going to screw them up. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is cut round the square. I'm not going to go all the way to the end, I'm going to start at the end and come back. Okay, and then you can put the paper on. What I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that backing on. I'm just going to peel it back. Because that's a bit of lining paper as well as backing. Okay. I'm going to leave that if I possibly can. So looking at that, what I'm going to do is drill a hole where I've marked fat enough for the wire and then thread the wire through the slat. Because if I was just to do it from there, the filler might all fall out from there, and it's just easier to do it straight through the slats there. Right, I'll drill a hole. And it's got to be big enough for your wire to be thread through it. Actually gone into the joist slightly there, which isn't a problem. So what we can do is slightly drill a bit further and just knock a bit off the joist and then pull the wire around. So that's not too bad. So like I was saying, we just caught the side of that joist slightly there, but it's not too much of a problem. Just knock that bit off. thread the wire through there now. Now, it's not going to be easy, it's going to take a little bit of time, this. I'm just going to get it over there and then try and get it back round through. I'm just going to get myself a pair of pliers. I've got the pliers so I can grab hold of the end of the wire and just help work it round without trying to damage anything. There we go. Okay, the job's done. Not too bad. So what I'm going to do now, bit of diluted PVA and then a little bit of foam in here, allow that to go off, and then a little bit of filler, and then seal it, replace the paper, 2 coats of emulsion, and then fit the light back. Make sure you give it a good shake up your foam. And you're wearing gloves. Like I say, you don't need loads. All you're trying to do is shut up the gaps. You're not trying to fill a void at the back. Okay, I'll allow that to go off. The foam is cured now, enough. But what I've decided to do is I'm going to take the backing off to the lining paper. So I'm just going to wet that in. While I'm waiting for that to soak, I'm going to cut this foam back. Be really careful where that wire is. Don't even cut anywhere near it. You know, pull it off round the wire. And then I can strip this paper off. luckily the lining paper was emulsioned, so it's not too bad. More water. So I just need to fill that now. I'll show you what I'm going to use. I'm going to use some instant filler, which is quick drying. That's what I'm using. Quick drying, instant filler. Probably only going to need one fill this. I'll see how it goes. It did need a second fill. One thing you've got to make sure you do is this wire has got to have a bit of play on it, you know, because when you come to wire the rows back and you're pushing everything back, it needs to sit back a bit. So make sure your that is free. So it just needs a light sand and a coat of PVA, diluted PVA, and sand these little edges where the paper's just ripped and keep away from the edge of the paper. Also on this edge here, it's actually a joint coming across there. So instead of to the edge of the square, I've took it back a little bit more to the edge where the joint of the paper is. So like I've just got to cut the paper, and when you cut the paper, you've got to make sure you get the square the right way around when you cut it off and mark it. So I know that was the top end of the paper, and I know whereabouts which square I need. Right. Like I was saying, you've got to make sure you get the right square, meaning you've got to have it the right way round. I mean, all the squares are the same, but you've got to have the pattern the right way round. So I know that's the top end of the paper. So on the ceiling, it's actually going to be like that. So the square I want is on this side. So it's one of these, this on this side. So when I cut it out on the ceiling, I used the Stanley knife. And I made sure I didn't cut onto the profile. I actually cut onto the flat. So when I cut now, I'm going to do more or less the same thing. So when it actually goes on the ceiling, you're better having a fine gap all the way around the square, like lining paper when you put that on, rather than it overlapping, because if it overlaps, you're never going to get rid of it. The little gap you can fill. Right, so I'm just going to cut this off. So what I'm going to do now is just double check the edge round and make sure I've cut enough off, and I'm going to actually mark the where the joint is, so I know exactly which side it is. That's not too bad. There's a little bit of trimming on this side. When you've cut the square out, roll it like you would normally with wallpaper. Just take that memory out of the paper and it sits better. And then this paper needs 5 minutes soaking. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to wet it with water and leave it for 5 minutes. The reason being is because I'm not going to mix any paste just for this little bit. I'm going to use some overlap and border adhesive ready mixed. So like I say, I'm just going to wet that in. I'm going to leave that for 5 minutes and then using a cloth wipe off the excess water, give it a coat of the Solvite overlap, and then I'll pour it up. That's had 5 minutes soaking now, so the remaining water I'm just going to wipe off. And now I'm going to give it a coat with the Solvite. Yeah, it's ready to go that. Before you put your paper up, you want to make sure that wire is tucked up there really. Makes it a bit easier. And then taking your paper, because you know you've marked it, you know which side goes to the joint. And when you're satisfied where you lined it up to begin with, you can push through where the screw is, working your way up to the wire, making sure there's no bubbles. And when you get to the wire, it's just a case of making a small incision. Pop your wire through over the next screw. And then with your damn cloth, just get that little bit of paper off there where the screw is. A little bit off round where the wire is. That's it. Just make sure there's no bubbles, and then you can make sure it's lined up right. So that just needs to dry now. Won't take long because of the overlap I've used. It dries a bit quicker than paste. So I'll be able to emulsion that in a minute. Just get rid of that pencil mark there if I can. Yep. Go. Pull that back out of it. Right, ready for emulsion when it's dry. Well, it's dried and I've been putting some paint on. You know, you want to cut in around the screws first and the wire. And then once you've done that, using a roller to give everything the same texture, you can roll it. Now it's probably going to need 2 coats, and it won't take long to dry. Make sure you spread it out and dry quicker. Alright, it's about to dry. So next time you see this now, I'll have the light back and everything. So, alright. All done. That's not bad at all, that. Not bad at all.